Well, that's a good sign. I agree with it.
What are your takeaways from?
My takeaways is there are many reasons why people win an election and lose an election. What happens in Virginia or New Jersey and New York City, they're different. But I think there was a common theme last night, and that is people all over this country are rejecting Trumpism. They understand that it is a horrific situation when 20+ million people are going to see a doubling, or in some cases a tripling, in the health care premiums when they can't afford it, when 15 million people are going to be thrown off of their health care because of massive cuts to Medicaid, and according to studies, and it's important to understand this, I say this all the time, but I really want to get it through to you. Studies indicate when you throw 15 million low-income and working-class people off the health care they have, 50,000 of them will die unnecessarily every year. 50,000 fellow Americans, low-income, working-class people, all to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to Elon Musk, billionaires, and the 1%. So I think that there are a lot of reasons for the Democrats' success last night in New York and elsewhere. That is one of the reasons, and I think what people want is that the Democrats stand up and continue to fight. So I think that one of the reasons of many that the Democrats had so much success is an appreciation the Democrats are trying to protect health care for the American people. Now, I know that there is some discussion about bipartisan negotiations. And I want to be very clear. If these negotiations say that we're going to pass legislation that will extend the credits, tax credits for the Affordable Care Act, count me in, that's great. But there has to be a commitment that the Speaker of the House is on board. There has to be a commitment that the President of the United States is prepared to sign the bill. Bottom line is we need to be successful in protecting the health care of the American people. And if it's just a piece of legislation that passes the Senate with either 50 votes or 60 votes, so what? Where does it go? Then it becomes just a meaningless gesture. You can go home, well, I voted for a piece. That's good. But the real truth is, will we protect the health care of the American people? That is what this whole shutdown is. Yes, sir.
Senator Sanders, are you at all disappointed that Leader Schumer did not endorse Mamdani?
You ask Senator Schumer then.
Senator, AOC said last night that Mamdani didn't just have to defeat a Republican, he had to defeat the old guard of the
Yes.
Democratic Party. So a follow-up, is she talking about Schumer? He didn't endorse Mamdani?
Look, here is what, and I want you all to appreciate this. This guy started his campaign at 1% in the polls. I called it one of the great political upsets in the modern history of America, and I think that's really quite true. So who did he take on? He took on oligarchs who put millions and millions of dollars to try to defeat him. Cuomo had all the money that he could use. He took on the President of the United States who endorsed Mr. Cuomo. He took on the Republican establishment, and of course he took on the Democratic establishment. So what Mamdani did last night was absolutely extraordinary. And the way that he did it was to put together a unbelievable, incredible grassroots effort, 90,000 people volunteering, knocking on doors. So what's the message there? The message is if you have an agenda that speaks for the working class of this country, if you are prepared to take on the oligarchs, explain to people that it's unacceptable that the very rich become much richer while working families can't even afford groceries or their rent. And if you put together a grassroots movement, you can in fact win. And I think, by the way, people say, well, that's New York City. I don't agree. I think that's... Pardon me?
But is the Democratic leader part of the old
Why do you want to create... Look, obviously, you have a Democratic... I ran for president against the Democratic establishment. That's what Mamdani did. It's no great secret. That's what Alexandria did. No great secret. Of course there's an establishment. And of course there's a division within the Democratic Party. There's no secret to anybody here. What are we seeing in Maine? What did you see in New York City? What are you going to see all over this country? You're going to see progressives running, protecting the needs of the working class, taking on big money interests, fighting for an agenda that works for all, not just the few. No great secret there. Yes, ma'am.
Mamdani also said that he is a Democratic socialist and made no apologies for
Correct.
that. Do you think that's something that the Democratic Party should embrace?
It's not a, look, then you have to go through a long book of what democratic socialism means. To my mind, if you make clear to the American people that there's something wrong where one person in America owns more wealth than the bottom 52%. Do you think Americans feel good about that? Right now, the billionaire class is doing better than it has ever done, while 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. We are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people. 20 million households paying 50% of their limited incomes for housing. What the American people, I think, are asking is how come we can't have a government that represents everybody rather than just the billionaire class? Why can't we have an economy that works for everybody rather than just the people on top? So you can call it whatever you want. And then you can, and there's a lot of discussion on how do you do. Let me ask you, the real issue is these oligarchs are so powerful. Right now you're looking at, Musk and the others investing hundreds of billions of dollars into AI, which in my view will have a devastating impact on the jobs of many millions of Americans. Who's going to stop them? Can we rally the American people to protect American jobs and workers in this country? A lot of issues that are out there, but bottom line is we need to bring people together to stand up to the oligarchs and create an economy that works for all. Yes?
What is the risk for the midterms next year if the party leadership does not embrace this flank of the party?
Well, the party leadership did not support Mamdani in New York, and he won. Party leadership is not supporting Platner in Maine, and I think he's going to win. So I think it is, I think there is a growing understanding that leadership and defending the status quo and the inequalities that exist in America is not where the American people are. Yes, ma'am, hold it one at a time.
Back to health policy, I wanted to make sure I understood your position clearly. If the House gave you a guarantee...
I'm sorry, say it again.
If the House gave you a guarantee, would you be willing to vote on a continuing resolution and tax credits separately, or would they still have to be attached?
If we had a commitment from the Speaker of the House that he was prepared to support a strong extension of ACA credits, and if the President of the United States, and I don't trust him, so you're going to have to figure out how he structured this, was saying that he was prepared to sign it, I think we should end the shutdown tomorrow, if you had that commitment. But if you simply had a nebulous vote that wasn't going to go anyplace, I think we got to continue the fight to protect the health care of Americans. And maybe one more question. Yes, sir.
Do you think the election results have convinced more Senate Democrats to your way of thinking?
I would hope so. Donald Trump told them that. Okay, thanks very much.
You already over there. I got it. Just trying to voice myself up.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for waiting. Always glad to have Bernie as my opening act. But anyway, let's get right to it. Last night was a shellacking for the Republicans and for Donald Trump. Last night was clear, unmistakable, as a repudiation of Trump and a vindication of what Democrats have been fighting for over the last several months and all year. Americans have been feeling the real-world repercussions of Trump's policies for months. They're having trouble paying their bills. And now this month, as they're getting their health care insurance premium vouchers, they're just scared to death of how they're going to pay it. And they know that Democrats are fighting for them and Republicans are doing nothing to address the health care crisis. And last night, Republicans felt the political repercussions. It should serve nothing short of a 5-alarm fire to the Republicans. Their high-cost house is burning, and they've only got themselves to blame. As loudly and clearly as could possibly done, from one end of the country to the other, the American people said enough is enough. Enough with Donald Trump's astronomical costs and tariffs. Right now, the president's lawyers are defending these awful tariffs in the Supreme Court. And Americans know that tariffs are a tax on them. They hate them. Maybe the Supreme Court will put Donald Trump out of his misery and declare them illegal because they are illegal. But Trump's tariffs have been one of the biggest hikes on American families in recent years. And of course, the election last night wasn't just about tariffs. The American people said enough with Republicans' relentless attacks on health care. As I said, they're getting these health care vouchers, and then there's a knot in their stomachs. How am I going to pay this? Am I going to do without health care when my children get sick? Americans all over the country are just sitting there and wondering what the heck is going on. And they also said enough with the cruelty, the corruption, the chaos that define MAGA radicalism. When they see that Trump doesn't want to help them with health care or paying for food for needy people, but sending $20 billion to Argentina and saying his most important thing he can do is tear down the wall in the White House, they say, what the heck is going on with this guy? And last night, they showed it. So last night was a really good night for Democrats and our fight to lower costs, improve health care, and reach a better future for our country. But more importantly than that, last night was a great night for American families that are struggling now to make ends meet because the election showed that Democrats' control of the Senate is much closer than the people and the prognosticators realize. The more Republicans double down on raising costs and bowing down to Trump, the more their Senate majority is at risk. We are seeing this from one end of the country to the other. That's not my opinion. Guess whose opinion it is? That this shutdown is hurting Trump and the Republicans. Trump himself. Here's what he said. This is his words. The shutdown was a big factor, negative for the Republicans. That's what he said about the elections last night. Comes right from him. He knows it. And when Leader Jeffries and I met with Donald Trump in the White House a month or so back, we told him this was going to happen. We warned him that if he didn't do something working with us to address the health care needs of America, and instead insisting on no negotiation with Democrats, that was a recipe for disaster for the country, and it would come back to haunt him. Last night should make it clear to Republicans that they simply cannot continue to ignore not only us, but the American people for the good of the whole country. So again, Leader Jeffries and I this morning demanded that Donald Trump sit down and meet with us to address the health care crisis. Anytime, anywhere, any place, we're ready to meet with him. It's time to sit down and negotiate with Democrats to bring this Republican shutdown to an end and address the health care crisis. But if Donald Trump were smart, he'd recognize the election results for what they are. And at least this quote indicates he may. What are they? What are these election results? They're a bolt of lightning and a wake-up call to Donald Trump to start working with us to end this crisis. The takeaway from last night was unmistakable. Democrats swept in states across the country, red and blue alike. Democrats won in New Jersey by an astounding margin. In Virginia, in Mississippi, in New York, in Pennsylvania, in Florida, in statewide elections, in citywide elections, and in local elections. From school boards to state houses, voters sided with the party that's fighting for them, the Democratic Party. Let last night ring like a siren in Republican ears. The American people are tired of Donald Trump in his willy-nilly policies, raising their costs and just helping his very wealthy friends. The American people are tired of Donald Trump raising health care premiums, ignoring working people. So the way forward is simple. To Donald Trump and the Republicans, work with Democrats, work to end your shutdown by meeting with us and addressing the health care crisis. The American people have spoken. It's about time the Republicans finally listen. Okay? I am ready for your questions. Yes, this gentleman right here. I didn't recognize him, so I figured I'd call him.
Thank you, Leader. What do you say to Republicans claiming you waited until after the elections to reopen the government? Failing past these elections, part of your...
Give me a break. We've been trying to meet with Thune and Johnson since late July. We've been trying to meet with Trump since September, and they've said no. We're not the ones waiting. They are. But maybe this election is a wake-up call to them. Yes. Well, look, if he says he's a smart politician, the election results were not vague. They were not unclear. They were a lightning bolt. Trump, America doesn't like what you're doing. Change course. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. On health policy, are you willing to now possibly vote on a PCR separate from the premium tax credits, and what would you need?
The answer, as I said, is simple, and what we've been saying all along. Republicans who caused the shutdown by not even negotiating with us on a partisan bill should sit down with us and address the health care crisis. That's the way to end the shutdown, plain and simple. Yes, Manu.
Senator Sanders just came here and he made very clear that a vote itself to extend subsidies on Obamacare is not enough. We need a commitment that this will become law. Are you in the same place?
Look, I'm not going to negotiate in public, but we must address the health care needs of the American people. The Republicans got to sit down and talk to us about it. And I agree with Bernie Sanders. The way to solve this is for Trump to sit down with Jeffries and I. That's why we demanded it this morning. Yes. Go ahead. No. Yeah.
Thank you. President Trump has said that the Republicans should nuke the filibuster because he says that you would do the same thing, or you're going to do the same thing in the future, so they should just go ahead and get ahead of it.
Look,
Why is he wrong?
stop the bull. Sit down and talk to us and end the health care crisis. Stop coming up with all of these excuses. He doesn't know anything about what we're doing here. One thing he should know, this. He's caused the shutdown. The American people know he has caused the shutdown, but the American people are demanding he bring real relief. Go ahead, Annie.
We're going to switch gears
How did I imagine that?
Let me read you a quote that AOC said last night when asked about you not endorsing Mamdani. She said, "The Democratic Party cannot last much longer by denying the future, by trying to undercut our young, by trying to undercut a next generation of diverse and upcoming Democrats that the actual electorate and voters support."
Listen,
What do you say to that?
I'm moving forward. This morning, I talked with Mayor-elect Mamdani. We had a very, very good conversation. We said that we cared about New York City and that we look forward to working together to help the city and improve the city. I congratulated him on running a very, very good campaign. And the issue that he is stressed is being stressed by Democrats across the country, from one end of America to the other, the high costs that the Trump administration is imposing on us and their failure to do anything about it. Yes?
Is your leadership willing to open the government for a limited period of time so these talks can go on while people are getting
Look,
paid?
I'm not going to negotiate in public, but the bottom line is simple. The election the American people have spoken. End the shutdown, resolve this healthcare crisis, sit down and talk with us. We've been saying it for a long time, but that is becoming obvious even to Republicans, even to Donald Trump, who's often a very stubborn guy. Yes. Yes.
Supportive of the negotiations that Senator Shaheen and other Democrats are leading?
Look, I've always encouraged Democrats and Republicans to sit down and talk with each other, but all of we Democrats agree, just about every single one of us, that Trump should sit down and talk with us as a way to solve this. Everyone agrees on that. Okay? We'll take last one.
I'm asking, would you, just following on that, would you accept a vote at a later date on healthcare?
I'm not negotiating in public, but I told you what the answer is. The answer is to sit down and talk to us. This election is clear as a bell, and I think it's going to affect Trump, and I think it's going to affect the Republicans. They can't, if they put their heads in the sand about this election and continue on their same path, their shutdown, their inability to help people with health care, tariff, and other costs, they're going to be in big trouble. And that's why I'm, feeling, look, this is just a battle. We have a long war to fight. But the war we're fighting, the electorate supports, which is bring our costs down. Trump promised to do it on day one. Costs are going up. Tariff costs dramatically up because of Trump. Electricity costs dramatically up because of Trump. Healthcare costs dramatically up because of Trump and the Republicans. 3 times they refused to extend the ACA credits. Thank you, everybody.